So, I am going to turn it over to the moderators. No, I'm not. I'm going to let the candidates introduce themselves first. And we're going to start in ballot order, just to be random. No special treatment here. So, Luke. I want to make sure I say his name right because I've said it wrong before. Luke Sternadel?
Correct.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, I'm Luke Sternadel. I'm a Republican candidate for Fayette County Commissioner Precinct 2 right here. I've been born and raised here. I've lived here all my life. I graduated from the Round Top Carmine High School, went on to trade school where I certified into welding, and came back here and went to work for Fayette County Precinct 2 in July of 1983. So I've spent the last 34 years of my life serving in Precinct 2. I'm very fortunate. I've had a good career here, and I would like to continue it. I probably wouldn't be here tonight if it wouldn't be for my lovely wife, Audrey, and my children. We had a little speech before I ever signed up with my family and friends, and to see if I wanted 100% support from my family. Otherwise, I wouldn't be up here tonight. And I have that definitely. And also, getting back to my career here, I was very fortunate to raise my family right here in Precinct 2, a little community of Waldeck, about 7 miles out of Round Top, and my 3 children, Clint, Gavin, and Amber, all graduated from Round Top Carmine with honors, and I'm very proud of that. Like I said, as far as my career here, I spent the last 16 plus years as the superintendent, which I'm currently serving as, and I feel that gave me a great opportunity to not only address to build bridges and to work on roads, but it's given me a great opportunity to get out and get to know a lot of you folks, and there's a lot of you that I haven't met yet. But it gave me opportunity to address a lot of your needs, a lot of your concerns that may not be directly affected to a road or a bridge. And with that, I appreciate that, and I would like to continue serving in that capacity, and that's why I'm running for this office. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. The next candidate on the Republican ballot is Daryl Nutzler. Unfortunately, Daryl couldn't be here tonight. His wife stopped by and let me know that he was ill, but she did leave some candidate materials back on the table back there, and I'm going to just introduce him with the material that she left. He says, I would like to explain how a successful car salesman and business owner can run for county commissioner. The truth is, I never considered myself as either of those things. I am, first of all, a manager of people. Let me explain. Managing people is a whole lot more than being a boss or a supervisor. To me, subordinates are only a fraction of a much larger picture. In any organization, including local government, people to be managed include associates, superiors, stakeholders, the press, and indeed the public at large. It's not enough to simply supervise a work program. Everyone involved in a given work program needs to be managed. This means communicating effectively, making wise decisions, dealing fairly with others, setting goals, achieving those goals, and most of all, serving the public in a responsible manner. This is all pretty basic stuff. The deeper issue here is how, as I, a county commissioner, can make a difference to the residents of Precinct 2. In short, how can I assure you that I am giving you a voice that will be heard in local government? First of all, I'm 100% confident that the county road infrastructure will continue to be developed and maintained in a positive way. We have a pretty good record on that score so far, but it can be improved. Much more importantly, my job as county commissioner involves preparing budgets, setting tax rates, supervising and maintaining public buildings, filling vacancies, and many other duties. I have built up a working history of involvement in the following activities that relate directly to the duties of the county commissioner: planning, budgeting, listening, organizing, improving work systems and procedures, supervising, identifying and resolving problems, troubleshooting, participating in community activities, and being accountable. I want to be your county commissioner, and I want to use my public administration skills to satisfy your community needs. To me, satisfying your needs in a positive and constructive way will offer more satisfaction and motivation than any other aspect of the job. Let me be your voice, and I only ask that you hold me accountable for achieving your goals. I will not let you down. Thank you, Daryl Nursler. Okay, next we'll have Mr. John J.R. Rubio.
I'm seeking this position. Also, I started January 11th of 1988. I started shredding. I have built myself up. Now I'm the road and bridge foreman. So I've done pretty well everything. I feel that we can make improvements also. And just I understand that the commissioner is not just the roads. We also have the courthouse to take care of, the budgets, and work along the other commissioners, with all the commissioners, to make decisions for the whole county, not just the precinct 2. But we have some stuff out there that can be improved, and I feel that I can do that. And thank you.
Thank you, JR. Okay, and last but not least, we have Mr. Abraham Pace. I got his name wrong on his card. I really apologize, but I was familiar with everybody else. But in the spirit of bipartisanship, we invited the Democratic candidate to speak as well.
Name's Abraham Pace. A lot of y'all probably know me. Lived on Schuster Road most of my life, except for about 3 years I lived in Fayetteville for a short time. I graduated Round Top Carmine High School, born in LaGrange, did 6 years at Blinn, going one semester at a time, putting in 2 days a week, and got my associates in business with an ag minor. Then come back and have run a fertilizing business, making hay, doing agricultural work for the past 23 years, dealing with large amounts of money, understanding challenges and overcoming the problems that arise with it. Very rough field to work. And seeking commissioner from dealing with fire departments, currently association president for the fire departments, dealing with the entire county, and a captain in Ledbetter Fire Department now, serving the community and hoping to do this through being a commissioner.
Thank you, Abraham. One thing I forgot in my introduction was to introduce our party treasurer, Mr. Joe Bailey. I'm going to call him up just for a minute to talk to you for a second.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank everyone for coming tonight. Hope we find this forum very interesting and informative, and help you make a better decision as a voter. The Fayette County Republican Party is very proud to put on these 4 forums, but unfortunately they cost money to put on, and I'm the sack dragger tonight. So we would appreciate it if you would consider making a donation to the Fayette County Republican Party. We have a number of costs associated with these forums. We have rent on the halls, which is a very nice place. We've got the refreshments, we've got publicity, we've got printing. You can see the little cards that show all the polling places. So, our membership dues do not cover these extra expenses like the forum. So there's a wicker basket at the back with a red lining on it, and if you would feel yourself free to contribute $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever you'd like. If you write a check, make the check payable to the Fayette County Republican Party. If you want to donate cash, we'll take that too. We're supposed to get there's some envelopes back there, and you fill it out, put your check in the envelope, and put it in the basket too. And we appreciate your financial support, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Okay, I think I've done all the damage I can do up here for right now, so I am going to turn this over to our moderators, Mr. Jeff Wick and Larry Jackson.
And you just watch. We're going to be able to do a lot more damage than you're able to. I want to thank all of y'all who've come out tonight. It's really, really important to have public participation. And so thank you so much for being here. But in addition to that, I want to thank the 3 gentlemen who are before us, and the one who's not, for being willing to run for public office. It is a sacrifice. Anybody who's ever done it can tell you that. It's a privilege to serve, but it's also something that's really difficult to put your name on the ballot. I want to thank every one of you for doing so. And thanks for being here tonight, because as voters, we really do want to learn more about your background, about what you want to accomplish in a very important position. Jeff and I are going to take turns asking questions. We'll ask a question so that each one of you will answer the same question. We'll go down it. You're going to be surprised how short a time 1.5 minutes is to answer a question. But we're going to try to get in as many questions as possible. So with that, Jeff's going to start us off and get us on the first question from our moderators.
All right, and just a reminder, Mr. Frenzel here, our timekeeper, will hold up a card saying you've got 1 minute left, and then he's got another one saying you've got 30 seconds left, and then he's got a cowbell that he will ring if you meet your time limit of 1.5 minutes.
Jeff, I don't think on a 1.5 minute we need to do the 1 minute.
We'll just do the 30 seconds. Okay. And also, please, among the other rules that the Republican Party has provided us with, definitely be respectful. If a personal attack is made on an opponent, that candidate will have 1 minute to answer, any challenge made by an opponent. So with that, let's go ahead. First question, and we'll begin in ballot order. So Mr. Sternado will start, and then Mr. Rubio, you'll be the first to start with the second question. Mr. Pace, first to start with the third question. So, Mr. Sternado, what is your vision for the future of Fayette County?
Well, my vision for the future of Fayette County is quite simple. It's that I've been born and raised here, like I stated earlier, and I've seen the growth around here, and I'd like to see that the county can continue to maintain in the operation that we are. We have some excellent people out here that want to see the community remain the way it is. We have, with all the antique show stuff, we have a lot more revenue coming in. And there's a lot of places we can improve with all the additional revenue, and I just think that if we're directed in the proper manner, I think it'd be beneficial for all of us in the county.
Mr. Rubio, what is your vision for the future of Fayette County?
My vision for Fayette County Precinct 2 is to upgrade everything that we can, use the tax dollars properly, and we see problems or whatever, we need to take care of them. Just stay, within the budget and do what we can to help all the local communities also that aren't under that they don't have a mayor or whatever, split the budget evenly.
Mr. Pace, what is your vision for the future of Fayette County?
Oh, I feel we're a growing community. First off, there's a lot of people coming in that might not count as residents, and they need to be included. They are taxpayers also. And we need to keep their safety and their well-being in mind and keep it appealing to everybody that's still here. We don't want to exclude anybody that maybe doesn't vote because they still are here and they still are taxpayers. And I think that's a lot of our biggest concern, where it should be focusing sometimes. And I think we might possibly forgetting some of that, on who the voter is and who's actually participating in the county structure. And we need to, it's a growing, and many things coming to be a problem in the next 20 years, I think, that we need to look forward to and try to anticipate now and not wait until it becomes a problem then.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take turns here. So our next question, I'm going to start with Mr. Rubio, and then to Mr. Pace, and then Mr. Sternado. We've talked a little bit about your vision. Let's talk about responsibilities as well. Outside of road maintenance, what responsibilities does a county commissioner have?
Also, the responsibilities would be to maintain the budget, to approve the budget of the courthouse, the sheriff's department, the EMS, the courthouse, and the tax roll, approve the taxes and everything, try to keep them within a certain limit, and try to work with what you have, so we don't have to raise taxes.
Same question.
Same question, yes, sir. What are the responsibilities of the county commissioner?
Foremost, there's a $24-something million budget in the county, that we have as a revenue, and we're in charge of expending that efficiently and appropriately among the whole county. And a lot of things included in it: animal shelter, airport, EMS, sheriff's office, fire, the whole mess. It really, searching over the last few years, going to commissioner's court, there's a lot of things that commissioner's court takes care of I didn't know when I was sitting on that side of the table. And I put a lot of effort into actually trying to figure this out, so if I get the chance, I think I can try to do it. But a lot of it comes down to the budget. Roads are greatly important, but a lot of taxpayers don't drive a county road very often. And so we need to keep that in mind as well.
Okay. Mr. Sernano? It's up to you. Same question.
Same question, fellas. Okay. As the other candidates had said, naturally our budget is a big thing to figure out. I've been working with a president commissioner, looking over his budget and seeing how he has been managing it, and there are so many issues to the budget that not only like we said, the road and bridge. I know they're working on the commissioner's court is working on the new EMS facility. They have to do a lot of improvements on the Justice Center and so forth and so on. So you have to be open-minded. You have to be I think a commissioner needs to be a to-go-to person because of all of the different things that they have to deal with throughout the whole county, not just right here in Precinct 2. And the commissioners have to work along with each other, and I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to deal with some of them and talk to them about it, and I feel that that's a very important factor for a commissioner.
All right, this next question goes to you first, Mr. Pace. Are there any unpaved roads of Precinct 2 that you would consider making a priority to pave if elected? Or are there any other road improvement projects you would prioritize?
I'll be quite honest about it. A lot of Precinct 2 roads are paved. And the ones that are not, some people want them paved and some people don't. And they've done a real good job. They really have on getting some of these done. The one criticism I would make is I would like to see right-of-ways. I think that has fallen short. And they're not like the county's taking over the property, but being able to put a ditch in and make the right-of-way where you can meet somebody with bigger equipment, I think is something we really need to work on more than worried about paving the road. I think we need to encourage some of that as far as trees hanging over the road and the right-of-ways associated with them.
Mr. Sternadel, your thoughts on road projects you'd prioritize, including paving any unpaved roads in Precinct 2?
Yes, I would. We have probably only about 19% of our roads that aren't paved. And the one thing people need to understand, everybody likes to have a nice paved road. A lot of it is due to, we have to go back every year and repair roads that have been damaged. Y'all might have all seen that from time to time, drilling rigs come in the area, they damage roads, big trucks. Just the weather itself from the recent weather we've had with the flooding and so forth. So to say to have 100% of your roads paved, you would have to look back at your budget and see if you can really afford that, because every year you have to go back and repair other roads, seal coat them, some have to be plowed up and reconditioned. And so you really have to put a pencil to it and make sure that what roads are priorities to pave and which ones aren't.
Mr. Rubio, any unpaved roads in Precinct 2 that you would consider making a priority to pave, or any other road projects you would prioritize?
We have a lot of our dead ends, stuff that I would like to pave some of them, simply for the reason that we don't have to send a motor grader out there to blade it, and it would stay good a long time because it doesn't have that much heavy traffic on it. We have some paved roads that need just short spots done, not the whole road or anything. I would consider spending more money on doing the short stops like that, stuff, quarter mile on a 2 mile road that we need to redo. We need to just go in there and tear it up and redo it. I think that would be more of my priority.
Okay, we've talked about roads, we've talked about budgets. Let me ask you to talk about yourself for a moment in one of these roles. Specifically, what is your most important asset regarding budget management? And we'll start with Mr. Sternadel. What's your most important asset or ability or experience in budget management?
Well, it's quite obvious that you have to have proper equipment to do what we're talking about here tonight. We're talking about maintaining the roads, maintaining the bridges. We all know that you have to have, I come from a family that did a lot of farming. If you don't have proper equipment to do your farming with, your tractors, your equipment, you're not going to be able to do a satisfactory job. So you need to look at that in your budget on this equipment gets used a lot to keep the roads up, build roads, so forth. And you need to have proper equipment. And I feel that that's the number one. When I started with the county back then in 83, we had a lot of equipment that we had spent a lot more time working on than we did actually operating and working with roads. So I think the commissioners are doing a super job. They've upgraded their equipment a lot, and they have equipment that they can work with to maintain these roads and to keep them up where we can all enjoy them. And I think that's something we need to continue looking into. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rubio, same question. What is your best asset as you look at budget management?
I would say to spend the money on, like I said, good equipment, that's what we have to work with. And being that I have run most of all the equipment that we have, I think I can get good equipment and stay within the budget and buy the equipment that we need from running it, having the experience on what we need to do the certain job.
Okay. Mr. Pace?
I'm gonna go with prevention. Prevent the big unexplained loss and, things of that nature. Your emergency situation is gonna be our biggest asset. We don't want to have a disaster go and break the county and put us in a bind. Equipment is nice and they have done great on it, but more than 6-point-something million goes to roads. The other, 15+ million comes out of as a whole for prevention. We need to be cautious.
Okay.
All right, this question goes to you first, Mr. Rubio. Obviously, the antique shows here in the spring and fall have a huge impact on this precinct. How could you better manage the impact of those shows, and how could some of the unsightly aftermath of the shows, unsold inventory, trash, etc., be better controlled while at the same time respecting private property rights?
I think that's a touchy situation. As a county commissioner, I don't think we have jurisdiction on the highway or 237, and I don't think that we should be able to go and tell somebody that they need to do something on private property.
Mr. Pace, same question.
I'll agree with him for the most part. I do say that it does need to get organized. And whatever means that has to happen, I think, is something that we need to approach. If it can be done in unison with the county, then I think the county should be able to help them. But just terribly unorganized could possibly be a disaster waiting to happen. It ties up traffic. The area is not prepared for it. It brings in a lot of revenue, and it drives up land values, and those things are great. But I think that as people, we need to do what we can to try to make this a little more preventive on the trash, things like that. But the landowners are getting the money for this, and the landowners need to be willing to help, everybody else work with it.
Mr. Sternadel, balancing the impact and cleanup of the antique shows while respecting property rights.
Well, as we said, private property, you have your rights on your private property. Nobody can tell you what to do on your own private property. I've talked with both sides of the fence here on the Friends of Highway 237, and I've spoke with some individual landowners as well. And I've noticed from my experience at the county, we offer additional dumpster space during the antique shows for the overrun of garbage, so-called trash, as y'all would say. And we haven't been receiving as much of it due to the fact that we have one of the most ultimate recycle centers for counties around. And a lot of the people, the landowners, are having some of their vendors do more recycling, which is helping. A lot of them are they're renting more dumpsters to accommodate the trash. So it's, I think it's working both ways. I understand. I'm born and raised here. I understand. I know what the rural areas, what they're looking at, but I also understand that I feel that the landowners are doing their part as well to an extent.
Okay, thank you. While we're talking about Antiques Weeks, let's look at another aspect of it. Sales tax collections are really important to reduce our property taxes. There's at least the allegation that hundreds and maybe thousands of Round Top Antique Week dealers do not collect the legally required sales taxes. We'll start with Mr. Rubio. The question is, what plans do you have to correct this problem?
Again, I don't know. I know that they've had people, the state has people going out there from the comptroller, to try to see if they can collect all the taxes. And it's hard, I guess, because some of them, pay cash and they don't have the receipts or anything like that. So, I mean, in my book, it's hard to keep up with it. But there again, I think the state, is the one that runs that. So we really don't have, the county can't send nobody over there to collect taxes, or, I think.
Okay, Mr. Pace, what are your thoughts on what should we do to correct the problem of uncollected sales taxes?
Oh, hopefully organization and cooperation with the county would help. Every pasture has a different group of vendors dealing with different people. A little bit of unity to get some kind of common goal is something I think with some cooperation through the state and through the county, I think would be beneficial, and that would also assist in collecting the sales tax.
Mr. Sternado, same question.
Okay. As we was talking about, the state comptroller's office controls all of it. It has to go through them. It has to go through they handle the state and the local tax rate. I personally have visited the antique shows around here, and I have talked to dealers that have been visited by members of the state comptrollers to check their IDs to make sure that they have their tax ID numbers. And the answer to that, like the other candidate said, I mean, there's some fine lines in there, and there's a lot of the dealers have businesses, not just at these shows, but they have their regular antique shops in the towns that they come from. And I've talked with some of them, and they said they pay their taxes at their shops and so forth. So once again, unless the comptroller's office hands it down, they're in charge of it, the county and the state level. So I mean, I don't feel we have a dog in the fight right now.
Okay. All right, Mr. Pace, this question goes to you first. If elected, how would you make precinct operations more efficient?
Precinct as a road and bridge, or precinct as something else?
Precinct as a whole. Any plans you would have to make it more efficient?
Oh, there's a lot of people in this system that this county has on with. It's not just commissioners. There's a lot of cooperation from EMS, Sheriff's Office. I mean, it really is a great thing watching it work. But, I really think Precinct 2 is doing a good job. I'm not going to criticize anything that's been done over the past 20 years since these two gentlemen have been here, and they've done a great job. And I really hand it to them. They've really committed a lot of their life toward this, and I feel appreciative of that. And anything that whoever wins out of this deal, whatever they contribute, what they've been doing, I think will be somewhat continued.
Mr. Sternal, what would you do as commissioner to make precinct operations more efficient?
I don't think there's a whole lot that I'd like to see change. What we have done is, if you look at the precincts overall, they operate on a small amount of employees, and they cover a lot of area. We have a precinct that has 240 miles of roads, and you take 7 or 8 guys out there, and these guys, including myself and JR here and the rest of the guys, we operate motor graders, bulldozers, backhoes, gravel trucks. They're multi-talented guys, and we're very fortunate to have them in the county. And we're very conservative. I think we're doing a super job. I don't see a whole lot of change.
Mr. Rubio, would there be anything you would do if elected to make precinct operations more efficient?
Not really. I mean, also, like I said, all of our employees are multitask, stuff. I mean, we get sent out to a job, we go do it best to our best ability. And I mean, we continue, I think, to be having a low tax rate with what we are doing now. I would just like to continue to work with what we have and try to keep our taxes down.
Okay, while we're talking about efficiency, let me ask you about another topic. We currently have 26 different voting places in Fayette County. What are your thoughts on consolidating voting precincts? Let's see.
Mr. Cernotto, that goes to you
Cernotto,
first,
the
yes.
first one.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, I've known in the past that there was a lot of consideration about consolidating them, and the only issue I have on that, there were some of them that were told they weren't up to standards as far as wheelchair accessible, proper bathrooms or whatnot, and they had brought them up to standard to meet whatever the county had required of them. And now to go back and tell them, no, we're not going to allow you to have it, I don't feel that's the right thing to do. I do know with I know the financial part of having people to attend all of these. I feel that we need to make it, like we were talking about, having this forum to make it as convenient as we can for all of the voters, and having the more open, it gives the voters, it's convenient for them. I do feel when you get down to a runoff or something to that nature, to consolidate them down would be fine with me. But I'm sure some of them could be. We have some smaller boxes it could be. But for the better part, there's a lot of people, elderly people, that don't care to travel that much, and I think it is a convenience for them to be able to vote in their own area.
Mr. Rubio, what do you think about voting polling place consolidation?
I also agree with Luke on some of the, there's one spot, Willow Springs, I know that's the one that was, they were told to get a bathroom, wheelchair ramps and everything else like that. And then now, that they can't do it. So I agree. And I know the people say, well, people are going to go early vote. They're going to go to LaGrange to buy groceries or whatever. But they might just do that. They might not go to the courthouse and early vote. I hope they do, but I don't know.
Mr. Pace.
Well, you also got to vote by mail, but it's kind of a small price to pay for allowing a person a chance to vote. And I think we just have to afford them circumstances when we can and make sure they get an opportunity to go where they're familiar with and what's easy for them. And if you start doing too much of that, say like the person in Warrenton is going to LaGrange, that's fine. But if the polling place got moved to Round Top, is that really fair? And is that really appropriate? Or are they going to have to go to Round Top and then back? And I think the cost of 26 precincts is a bunch, but this is a pretty big rural county, and we need to keep that in mind.
All right, Mr. Rubio, this question goes to you first. If elected, how would you be accessible and provide timely responses to your constituents?
I would be accessible anytime. I would be willing to go talk to the people. They would have my phone number. I know a lot of people are in this area here or come down on weekends. They live in Houston or whatever, and to come down here and they have problems, they see problems or whatever, I'd be willing to go talk to them and discuss them and work with them.
Mr. Pace, talk about how you would be accessible and responsive to your constituents if elected.
I am pretty good at answering the phone, and I'm pretty good at working 7 days a week. And I try to stay pretty available most of the time. My line of work of what I've been in, I have to be accessible to the people. I can't hide out. I don't get a paycheck for just being there. I mean, I have to cooperate and deal with people all the time, and I really feel like I'm pretty good at it.
Mr. Sternal, talk about accessibility.
Well, looking back at the other commissioners, I feel they 24/7. I have yet to have called one of them that didn't answer their phone or call me back in a timely manner. And I feel that is important. I mean, because you never know when, we get a call out in the middle of the night. It could be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, storm, a dead end road, a tree goes down, and the people have no way to get out. Emergency vehicles can't get in there. So you have to have a 24/7. If the commissioner's unavailable, he has to have someone. He needs to have a good superintendent, a foreman, or somebody It can be 24/7, and I think that's a very important factor.
Okay, let's think about relationships. As a county commissioner, you're one of 5 members of Commissioner's Court, and you're working with all of the other elected officials in a county. I wonder if you would, I'm going to start with Mr. Pace. What is your connections with elected officials currently in office, and how would you describe the relationships that you have with current office holders? Contentious, cooperative? Would you describe those relationships with other elected officials?
I'd say pretty cooperative. Fire departments and sheriff work together a lot. Same thing would apply for the city PDs, which we kind of forget about those because they're city, and there's not any part of precinct 2 in LaGrange, is it?
Yes.
The trailer park is. No, a little bit, yeah. So there's a little bit of city involvement in precinct 2 also, but everybody else has done their job. I mean, and you have to respect that and their efforts that they give to it. And if they need anything from the county, they know where to go with it. And I don't think that holding animosity toward elected officials is appropriate anyway. But I would hope that it never comes up that way. But no, everybody in the county system that I've dealt with, I've been more than pleased with, and county employees included. I think everybody's been really nice, really friendly, and really willing to do their job. And appreciatively, if they didn't think so, they wouldn't be doing it.
Very good. Mr. Sternadel, how would you describe your relationships with other elected officials?
Oh, I think it's excellent. I had a very unfortunate situation sometime back when our Commissioner Weissing got badly burnt and was in a burn center for quite some time. And as superintendent, I stepped up to the plate and took over the responsibilities that I was supposed to. And we were in the middle of purchasing heavy equipment and so forth. And as not being a commissioner at the time, it was very important for me to rely on the commissioners that were in office. Commissioner McBroom, Miros, and Beckendorf. I dealt with all 3 of them, and they were very happy. Commissioner McBroom sat down with me, and he goes, you have to get it on the agenda and so forth. So I think Fayette County is very fortunate to have the commissioners that work hand in hand and to get the job done as well as the judge. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio, same question.
I have worked with all the other commissioners also in absence of somebody being on vacation, or I operate the distributor trucks or paving roads and stuff like that. I know Mike got hurt, precinct 4 and stuff, so I'd go out there and help them out. So I worked with that commissioner. Harvey Birkenhoff, he was there also. That's a commissioner, and Jason here, McBroom. I have done, I have worked with them also when in the absence of their employees. So I think it's a good relationship. No problem.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Sternadel, this one goes to you. You all kind of touched on your qualifications in your opening statements, but please be specific in this answer of examples of your work experience that would help you as commissioner if elected.
Okay, well, as we said, we don't want to just talk about road and bridge. But like I said, when I started in '83. We built all of our own bridges. We didn't have contractors come in and build them, so we welded them. We went out there and built them from ground up. So I know what it takes to build a proper bridge. I know what it takes to build a good road. I worked under 4 commissioners that I've acquired a lot of knowledge on what it takes and what's required of it. And I think that's a very important factor to going out there and overseeing a job. You need to know if they're doing a good job or not. Otherwise, you might be wasting tax money and building a road or bridge that won't hold up. So I think it's very important for a commissioner to know all aspects of it, to do a proper job.
Mr. Rubio, please provide some specific examples of your work experience that would help you as commissioner.
Also, I started in the construction business when I was a junior in high school, working for Fayette County Construction. There I learned a lot, fixing flats, running equipment. So I started on the bottom. When I came over here in '88, we started working on bridges and stuff. and welding them. We spent a many hour out there welding, tearing them down. So we started from scrap. We tear them down and start new, and you know, they had to be spec'd out so they would meet the standards, and we did that. So I would say that would be one thing, being out there in the field and doing it.
Mr. Pace, specific examples of your work experience that would help you as commissioner.
Oh, everything I've done, I'm a taxpayer first, and everything I have done up until this venture, if I've messed it up, it's cost me. And I plan on continuing that through public office if elected, and vowing that I treat it as it is going to cost me in the long run. I'm not on a paycheck. I don't get paid if it's messed up or if it's not done correctly, and I aim to keep that going through what I've learned in the business of work that I am in.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the county programs, but in addition to county programs, county funds, county is responsible for a number of federal and state-funded programs. We're going to start with Mr. Sternadel, and I want to ask you about...
I think we start with Mr. Rubio.
I'm sorry. We did.
Mr. Rubio.
I apologize. What, if any, federal and state funds does Fayette County receive and manage for programs in our counties? And what's your role as a county commissioner in that?
As a county commissioner, I know we apply for grants, you know, stuff, and the state allocates some money for each precinct, the whole county, the county, and then they're divided 4 ways. So each precinct gets a certain amount of material, or in the money wise, or whatever, however a person wants it, and that's it. You know, the funds apply for grants, and like we had a storm last year that washed a lot of the rock out and stuff. So we applied for a grant to get some money to pay for the material and stuff, and they helped us. So that would be one reason.
Okay, Mr. Pace.
Oh, I think there was a lot of the road and bridge stuff happened too, but we got to remember Hurricane Harvey caused an issue, and FEMA was very involved in that. A lot of the entities of the county actually take care of most of the state stuff as far as your judicial, district court, state court, stuff of that nature. Jails assisted by the state, I'm pretty sure, as well, and the Commissioners Court holds the agreements with the county, of course, as far as securing those funds and where they get allocated to, and I'm sure that most of that falls on the divisions of what they're intended for, and not just as a commissioner's decision.
We'll get to you after all.
You're getting to me, huh? Well, also what a lot of people aren't aware of is that we are having, as they were talking about after Hurricane Harvey, we had some, Cummins Creek has taken a turn for the worst. It is getting close to one of our roads. We are working with the Department of Agriculture and trying to get some money. The county's trying to get some money set us to help with some of the flooding that we've had. We've lost a bridge down in the Willow Springs area off of Kranich Road. We have filed for FEMA assistance on that. And naturally the bridge has to be replaced. It's in the process of being replaced. And with money like that, it help keep us from having to spend our whole budget on that. And I think that's the main thing we have to look into is what other funds are available for the county, outside of what we have in our budget. And I think the commissioners have been doing a super job on that, and we're working toward that.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pace, this question goes to you first. This is not an easy thing to run for elected office. Why are you seeking the commissioner position?
I said it a little bit earlier in the introduction. Started going to a lot of meetings through the fire departments and representing them, trying to get a unit together as one department instead of just 10 random departments making opinions, and gained a lot of interest. I really kind of like what happens there. I like the way it works. I always felt I probably should have been a lot more involved a lot sooner. And I hope to take this opportunity to try to do so. Apparently every place I end up in a leading position. So I figured I might as well try and go get paid for one.
Mr. Sternadel?
Well, I was working for the county for the past 34 some odd years, and as being superintendent for the past 16, as I had stated earlier, I've been here my whole career, and I feel that this is my next step in life. I've accomplished my way up to superintendent. I've dealt with the people. I've dealt with a lot of you out there, and I just, it's enjoyable for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent my career here for the last 34 years. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy dealing with the people, working with the people, and I just would like to continue doing that.
Mr. Rubio, why are you seeking this position?
I also would like to spend, the rest of my time that I have working. As Commissioner Weissman was going to retire, so he gave me the position that I had, the road and bridge foreman. I figured I can continue on and help the Fayette County Precinct 2 be prosperous.
You know what? We're getting down to the end of our questions. So I've got one real simple question to ask each of you. How many county commissioner meetings have you attended in the past year?
None.
One.
Mr. Pace?
Oh, there's about 25 a year, something like that. So I've probably been, in the last 2 years, probably been to 30 something of them. I've made probably about 75% of them for last year, and probably about a little less than half the year before.
Okay.
Good time for intermission.
I think it's time for intermission. What do you think?
Okay. Well, you guys are fast.
They're good.
Yeah, really.
I didn't even get to use the bell.
Yeah. Dick went out and bought a cowbell just for this. He didn't even get to ring it once. Now, at the beginning of the question and answer, Jeff explained that candidates would be given an opportunity for a rebuttal. And I realize I'm not a candidate, but I'm going to take an opportunity to rebut the comments that I heard about consolidated precincts. Because, yes, the Republican Party is going to consolidate precincts for this primary election. And there's a lot of reasons why. Part of it is money, because, as y'all know, we have to man the polling places. We have to pay the workers. Sometimes we have to even rent the locations if the facility is not willing to let us have it for free. So in addition to the cost, which we've calculated we would save at least $10,000 by the planned consolidations that we have for this coming primary election. But in addition to that, we have to man these polling places with at least 4 to 5 workers. And that is getting harder and harder and harder to do. When you multiply 26 precincts by 4 or 5 people, that's a lot of people to come up with. And these people have to work at least 14 hours that day. So in combination with trying to get workers, talk somebody into getting up at the crack of dawn and being at the polls at 6 o'clock and staying till probably 7:30, 8 o'clock at night to finish closing the polls. Again, it gets harder and harder to staff these locations. And so we are making every effort that we can to get the word out where the precincts, polling places are going to be consolidated. In fact, in your chair is this push card that tells you exactly which precincts are being consolidated, where their polling place is going to be on March the 6th. So we're trying to get this information out to as many people as we can. One of the other things that was mentioned was the condition of some of these older polling places. I wasn't aware that they put a handicap ramp to the outhouse at Willow Springs. I didn't know that. But, still, it's an outhouse. Let's face it. Would you want to work someplace 14 hours a day and your only facility was an outhouse? I wouldn't. I've worked at Almondsville in an ice storm with no heat. That was not fun either. So again, what we're trying to do is eliminate some of these older polling places that have a minimal number of voters going to it and be conservative. So, yes, Arnold?
I want to speak to.
Yes, sir. You go.
Deborah has said a lot about the inconveniences to the poll workers, but we need to concentrate on the situation from the standpoint of the voter. More than 50% of the voters in Fayette County vote either early or by mail. In order to vote by mail, you make a request, and then the voter registrar sends you a ballot and you mail it back. It's easier to vote by mail than it is to go if you live next door to the polling place. It's easier to vote by mail. So that more than 50% of the people are not inconvenienced in any way by any precinct consolidation. And I think that we'll have more and more people voting early and voting by mail, so that you need to avail yourself of the conveniences that are offered to you if you don't want to go to the polling place. I've heard it said that going to the polling place is a social activity. Well, I've worked in enough polls to know that it isn't very social. So that one just doesn't count.
Thank you, Arnold. Okay. Arnold did mention the early voting, and on the other side of your little card that you might be sitting on is a list of 5 additional satellite voting places that our election administrator's office has gotten the permission to open up. Each one of those 5 locations is going to be open on a certain day at a certain location: Flatonia, Round Top, Warda, Schulenburg, Fayetteville. Each of those locations will be open one day during the early voting period. The dates and the locations are on this push card. So, no excuse for not knowing where all of the satellite voting places are going to be for early voting. Additionally, the early voting at the courthouse is going to be just like it always has been, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., starting on February the 20th, going through March the 2nd. And they're even going to be open that first Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So again, you have lots of opportunities to vote early, to vote by mail, or if you choose to wait until March 6th, here are your Republican polling places being consolidated. So, that's all I have to say about that. We're going to take a brief break, probably about 20 minutes, and if you've thought of a question that you want to ask the candidates, we have paper back there. You fill out your question, leave it on the table. We're going to collect those and then come back after the break and give these wonderful candidates more opportunities to share with you. Yes. Oh, thank you. Joe also reminded me that also out on the table in the front lobby over to the left, we have some membership forms if you would like to join either the Fayette County Republican Women or the Fayette County Republican Party. We have membership forms for both of those. And don't forget, if you'd like to help us cover some of the costs for these forums, we're more than welcome to accept your money. Thank you.
And let's thank these candidates for being with us.
Yeah, back in the saddle. And apparently you guys did a great job in turning in questions because we got a whole bunch of them. So, y'all watch out. We're coming at you again.
All right, the easy questions are over. The hard questions are coming. All right, we'll start with one very specific question. And we'll again begin with Mr. Sternadel, ballot order. Go that way, and then Mr. Rubio, you'll get the second question first. But Mr. Sternadel, what are your plans for Forest Hills from 159 to Konetsky Lane and from Forest Hills to the dead end? The road is in major disrepair, needs a new base in areas, and resurfaced needs a new base and resurfacing. There are 22 homes on Konetsky and approximately 20 on Forest Hills. So a lot of people impacted by that. Any plans for that area?
Yes, it is. I have recently went in that area, and I spoke with numerous of the landowners that live in there, both on Forest Hills and Konetsky. And I'm very aware of the condition of the road. And speaking with some of the landowners there's some new home construction going in as we speak, and there's 2 or 3 projected new homes that are going to be built recently. And my answer to them would be the same as what I'm going to tell you guys here tonight, is that dig out the bad spots, put in a proper base, a good limestone base. Right now, even the landowners, I think a majority of them I talked to said resurfacing the road at this point would probably be a waste of money because there's going to be more construction in the near future. But a good base, level the road up, get it smooth, and get a good base set down so they don't have to drive through the bad potholes or so forth. And then once the construction is completed, then resurface the road.
Mr. Rubio, plans for that area?
I think one of the problems was like Konetsky Lane, when the new subdivisions come in, they build them and everything. I don't think it was probably built right to begin with. So that's why I know I dug some bad holes on it or whatever. But we need to go back in there and tear it up and start all over. On Forest Hills East, we got to do about the same thing, but also I think on there we need to talk to some of the landowners about drainage problem, because that's one thing that the water does not get away from the road. It sits in the road, and that's what causes it to become bad spots. So,
Mr. Pace, plans for Forest Hills East and Konetsky Lane?
The ditches, that's something I stated earlier. I think the ditches need to be done, and we're kind of lacking in a lot of roads. And the other problem with that is that started out a private road also. And so getting it right, I think, is going to be the next step in it, is getting the base correct, getting the ditches in there and preventing, because there's not a lot of heavy traffic on that road. Even the house construction is not, compared to some of these roads that take a lot of heavy traffic. I think it should be an easy fix.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the budget. The past few years, thinking about the county budget the past few years, what items in the budget have been consistently over budget, and how would you rein it in or find a better way to keep those items in budget?
I'm going to say the hardest problem was 2-3 years ago when the price of oil went up. Fuel became to be, expensive. When we paved the roads, it was probably a third more than what it is now. The gallon, the tar, everything was more expensive to run the equipment and everything else. I would say that would be one of the issues there.
Okay. Mr. Pace, about what items have been consistently over budget, and what would you do about it?
I think it's really just a lack of foreseeing the problem coming. I don't take the Hall program, for instance, paid $56,000 this year. I didn't see it. I didn't pay that much attention to it. You don't see that number when you look at the budget online. But I think we could have seen this coming a long time ago. We got Lee County collecting, the ears, and Fayette County was taking the tails, and now we're swapping again. They did the same thing at that time. And there needs to be some cooperation in some of these things. I got the weird suspicion, and I think commissioners did too, and they went through and now they got affidavit made a Class A misdemeanor if you lie on this form of paper when you turn in your ears. Because we got people turning 200 and 300 sets of ears that live in Bastrop County. Now, I'm not saying they're not shooting these pigs in Fayette County, but I'm not saying that I believe wholeheartedly that all these pigs are coming from Fayette County. And we need to watch preventing, because a lot of our problems are going to be coming in through the people, through our growth, and through what people take advantage of. And I think our biggest is just using that as an example, that we need to anticipate some things in the future.
Okay, Mr. Sonata?
Other than those, I don't see a lot that we are over budgeting so much on. We have, I've looked over the Precinct 2 budget over the past few years, and other than like JR was saying with the prices of oil and fuel and the petroleum prices, naturally with the fluctuation, it's hard to budget everything to a T, but we seem to be well within our budget. Precinct 2 is operating on about a $1.5 million budget, and we seem to be maintaining quite well.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pace, you brought up the bounty program. Are you in favor of continuing the hog / coyote bounty program? Approximately $50,000 is being spent yearly on the program. Should county government be sticking to core issues of public safety and infrastructure?
Well, controlling the pigs is a little bit of a public safety. There's some disease and road issues, of course, that goes with them. And I think they dropped the price down to $5 instead of $7, and they put a limit. And I'm going to shoot the pig and not turn it in, because that's what I do. That's the way I feel about the pigs. If it takes a few dollars for somebody else to shoot some of the pigs to keep us, because they cause a lot of damage, and they really do cause an issue. So I would consider it really kind of a public safety deal for the bounty program. And so I do understand its intent, and I do agree with it to some extent. My concern was supporting people from other counties that might be turning stuff in because they don't have them in surrounding counties. As far as I understand, it's just Lee and Fayette County. So we get the Bastrop County pig ears, and that was my intention on the bounty program of that. Otherwise than that, I think everybody, Ms. Musney will tell you too, that when she needs money for EMS and she feels it appropriate, the county's doing a real good job of keeping it. For public safety, I think we're good. We have a really safe county. And a lot of the elected officials, like the sheriff and stuff, are really doing a great job of that. And in the future, we need to be sure they continue to do so.
Mr. Sternall, yes or no on continuing the Hogg County bounty program?
Well, I think we've all experienced that the surrounding counties, including Fayette County and the surrounding ones, we don't seem to be on the same page. We were collecting ears, they were collecting tails. We went to tails, they went to ears. It seems to be going back and forth. It's quite obvious the hogs are a nuisance. They're doing a lot of damage to farmland and so forth. And something definitely needs to be done. I would like to see it moved up to possibly a state level and have somebody from the state come down and say, look, the counties need to all get together and get on the same page, and we have to do something about it. Because right now it seems like that the counties are having a hard time, what we're just saying here right now, they're having a hard time coming together on something. And it is a problem. It's destroying all of our cornfields and our hay meadows. And something definitely needs to be done. I think we need to go outside of the county and seek some other advice.
Mr. Rubio, should the county continue the hog and coyote bounty program?
I think we should. I think it's a good thing. I know, like the other candidate said, we got a lot of damage that they do to the field, and fences and all that stuff. I think we might try to get state help or something to see if we can do, apply for a grant or something, maybe that the state could help on that. And also work with the other counties so we're on the same page and everybody works together.
Thank you. Mr. Sternadel, one of the responsibilities of the county commissioners is to set the county tax rate. The 2017 tax rate for Fayette County is 44.64 cents per $100 valuation. By comparison, Bastrop County is 58.97 cents, and Lee County is 68.1 cents. Do you believe that Fayette County's tax rate is too high, about right, or pleasantly low?
I think we all can agree that the tax rate, I've talked with a lot of people out in the community, and they say, why are y'all doing this to our taxes? Why is the tax rate like that? It's if you look, you'll notice a lot of it is the increased value of the property that made their taxes go up, not so much the tax rate. I feel like tax rate is awesome. I think Fayette County is doing a super job to be able to maintain it at that rate. And once again, I'm going back and saying that, the land values have went up, and that did affect it. So by keeping this down, I think it's a plus.
Mr. Rubio, what are your thoughts on our tax rates?
I'm glad they're 44, but also, I know the land values of it, so the land is more expensive, so we get money from that. And I don't know, I guess on the Lee County or whatever, the value of the land is not the same as it is around here. So I'm glad that the commissioners have been doing a great job of maintaining and, again, working with what we have.
Okay, Mr. Pace, what are your thoughts on our tax rate?
I think it's actually kind of high. I mean, because land value's up, yes, I agree, but the appraisal value is what's up. And if we take that $800,000 property and value it at $400,000 like it would sell, double the tax rate, you have 88 cents. And that's kind of honestly the way I feel about it. To keep everything in perspective, we'd still have a pretty high tax rate. We all still pay quite a bit of taxes. We're not cheaper per person than Lee County. Their rates are higher, but their values are appraised at much lower rate. So what the actual tax rate would be for the same value, I couldn't tell you exactly for sure on that, but I wouldn't take the 44 cents and act like we have such a low tax rate. Just cautiously, I would be aware that I think the appraisals are on the higher end, and so we should be considering ourselves probably more like 50-something cents, honestly.
Yeah. Does that question go to you, Mr. Strinelli? Have you answered that?
He's already.
He was first last.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was first last time.
reading all these hard questions here.
Right, figuring out where to go from here.
All right, what about health issues from all the debris left after the antiques fair? Rodents, mosquitoes, etc. Anything that can be done as a commissioner to remedy that?
Again, I think that falls on the landowner. They rent the spaces out or whatever and stuff. What they leave behind, it's on the landowner's property. There's really, as a commissioner, I don't think there's much that I would, make a suggestion, but that's about it. I don't think there's anything that you can go in there and make them do.
Mr. Pace, anything that can be done in terms of debris left after the antique shows and the health issues that go along with those?
For the cost, I think it really does fall, like he says, on a landowner. I think the county can maybe do something to help make some resources available for cleanup, whether it be a dumpster that gets brought in or whatever, I think. But I don't expect to see county employees picking trash up out of Randy Wheat's pasture. I think that a lot of that has to be done by the people that put this on and benefit from it. And if they can't do so, then it really needs to be rethought of how the whole thing goes down and happens.
Mr. Strinelli?
Yes, I have done a little research on it myself, and apparently the county does not have say-so over the private property, is correct. But if there is such a thing as an overabundance of garbage that is left behind that is actually causing a nuisance as far as maybe buzzards or rodents, there are stipulations, according to the county attorney, that can be done that will allow the county to step in and do something at that point. From the point of view right now, I don't see that problem. As I stated earlier, I think a lot of landowners are doing a good job of cleaning up. They have people cleaning up daily, and they have an additional dumpsters. I haven't really seen a major issue in that.
Okay, I believe Mr. Pace, is that right? That
Yes.
You're the first one on this one. Let's think about the recent flooding that occurred. The question that we have is, how much extra expense did that create to the county, and how is that being handled?
As far as I know, most everything was put in for a grant. What remains to be paid out of that from FEMA's, kind of tough. I think LaGrange itself was the major loss in this due to housing and the things, of course. In the county level, there's some roads messed up and some permanent damage that probably won't ever recover from. But, we kind of should be putting this money into bank to take care of this and prevent this. And if it takes a few years to recover, then I think that's just something we'll have to try to do when we get to that point.
Okay. Mr. Sternado?
Well, one thing about it, like I stated earlier, that we had lost a bridge down in the southern part of our precinct, and we're talking about a $280,000 bridge. So when you're looking at that coming out of your budget, it's quite obvious that that's going to impact it dramatically. Even though the county applies for this funding, it could be a year down the road before you receive that funding, and you're not certain exactly how much you're going to get. So that's a very, very important factor there to make sure that you have enough money to handle that. And it looks like we're going to have we took some extensive damage along with the Cummins Creek change in course and coming out by roads. We're looking at several $100,000 just in precinct 2.
We also had on Willow Springs Road, when we were paving it out there and stuff, we probably had 40, 50 loads of material washed out in the pasture. So, that was extra money that we had to dig up, get somewhere. So I would say save money for hard times. Don't spend it all. You got to save some for times like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this question goes to Mr. Sternado first. Only one current county commissioner has email address. Would you add email if elected? And if yes, I will consider this a campaign promise. And I am not asking for a Twitter account. Email address, Mr. Sternado. Would you have one if elected?
Yes, I would.
Mr. Rubio.
Yes, I would.
Mr. Pace.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure all the commissioners currently have email addresses. I email them, I know. Judge, you had the whole mess there, everybody has email.
Now, some of them, if I may add, some of them maybe aren't using their county email; they're using their personal email.
Yeah, I think
That could be part of it.
published email addresses is what they're looking at.
Would you make it a priority to have a county email address and make it accessible to constituents?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Right.
That was a quick one, wasn't it? As a county commissioner, you are the face of local government with responsibility to take care of citizens in your precinct, and that involves more than roads and bridges. What do you see as the biggest challenge to county government in meeting these responsibilities to taking care of citizens? And I believe, Mr. Rubio, you're the first one.
I would just be able to talk to them, talk to the people, and discuss problems with them. Go out there and talk to them. Ask them what the problem is. Why we need to do this. What problems do they have? What do they see? And just work with them and try to find a solution until we do.
Okay. Mr. Pace, what do you see as the biggest challenge in taking care of citizens?
Oh, making what's the priority and what's not is going to be the hardest thing. It's going to be hard to take. You're dealing with a fourth of 23,000 something people that have an opinion, and figuring out which opinions justified and which ones not. There's always a few that I hate to say don't count, but at the same time, they may not be as important as somebody else is concerned that really does pose a threat or hazard to more people. And I think prioritizing is something that they've really done a pretty good job on. And hopefully continuing that is going to be the hardest thing I got to come up with, but it should be accomplished.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sternado?
Sure, like you were saying, the emails. Everybody has an email account, and have yourself available for the citizens. Right now, we receive a lot of calls from people that just simply need to know where do they go get their license plates, who do they talk to about culvert pipes, and there's just so many things. That just making yourself available through emails or whatever.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Pace, this question goes to you first. What's your experience in managing people? What's your experience working with a budget?
Budget should be easy. My biggest deal is, the income. And what I do the plan changes in a month. And what I do for a living and anticipating that is the hard part. So budgeting, when you have a set income and know roughly what things are going to cost, should be a breeze. And as far as managing people go, I'm pretty good at it. I mean, working in the fire department, granted, those are great people, just like the people at the county barn, great people. And I tend to get along with them pretty good and be fair and reasonable. And if anybody ever's had a complaint, I've been real good at listening to them and understanding and coming up to a resolution that works for everybody.
Mr. Sternadel, your experience managing people and working with the budget.
Well, as superintendent, that is part of my responsibility in the absence as a commissioner, is to manage the crew and also deal with the people on the basis as the need arises. And so I'm very familiar with that, and I have been doing that for some time. And as well as managing the budget, I have stepped in from time to time on large purchases and things of that nature, working with the commissioner. So I'm very familiar with both, and I think I do fine.
Mr. Rubio, your experience in managing people and working with the budget.
We got 8 people up there, and like I said, when we start building a road, we get sent out, and being the road and bridge foreman, we go out there and we try to do the best we can. They trust me to, get it done right. So I feel that I can work with them, and everybody's up there pretty well multitask. So we do more things than one, and and as far as the budget goes, working with the commissioner now, and then getting ideas on buying equipment and everything like that. So we know what we need.
Okay, Mr. Sternadel, I believe we're going to start with you on this one.
Can't hear you.
Where'd we go?
There we go.
Okay, got it. Hit it one more time. I guess this one relates to conflict of interest. The question is, do you have any current business or any other situations that may interfere if you were to be elected? If so, please explain how you would handle that.
No, I don't own. I do not own my own business. I'd be available at any given time as needed.
I also work, this is my job. This is my number one job. I do stuff on the side and on weekends or whatever, but as far as that goes, this is my number one job. So I would.
Okay.
The answer is, well, yes, I do. And getting it set up to where it's going to run itself, I'm going to be limited. I mean, commissioner's job is not necessarily a set time that he has to be there, but I do expect at 6:30 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon is not too much to ask. And it's going to have to be set up where if I mess with anything in the business, it's going to supposed to be during not that time, and making myself available to the people just the same. And if it becomes a conflict, I'm elected to do the commissioner job. That's what I'm going to do. And everything else is just going to be side money or something I do after work.
Okay.
All right, this next question goes to Mr. Rubio first. What personal investigation have you done into the county finances, and what 3 top items would you implement to reduce county expenses?
As far as that goes, like I said, the main expenses most of the time is our paved roads. I would try to do them right, do them one time, and where we don't have to go back and redo the roads again. Buy equipment, buy good equipment, and keep something where we can keep up good.
Mr. Pace, what personal investigation have you done into county finances, and what are the 3 top items you would implement to reduce those county expenses?
Probably the top item is going to be the health insurance. I mean, there's 180-something people on the county payroll that collect the insurance. And that's obviously going to be a big expense to the county. So anything could be saved but still be fair to the employee is probably going to be the top end of that one, in my opinion. Not that there's a better solution that I know of that I found, but I think that that's something that sure should be looked at because there's a lot of money in. Oh, about any 2 more you wanted, huh?
They asked for 3, yes.
Maintenance is something I think that there's mostly a handle on. I know there's a lot of equipment, with sheriff cars and ambulances and then all the precinct barn stuff and buildings. That actually turns into a big one with the buildings, doesn't it? Courthouse was a big expense, and I think that's probably coming up again here for too long, the way they're talking. And something really needs to be thought about that, about what you put into it and why you're doing it, and then how long is it going to last after it's done. That would be probably the top two, and then I'll go with the third one, like they said, with the equipment.
Mr. Sternadel, what personal investigation have you done into the county finances, and what 3 top items would you implement to reduce expenses?
Well, I know there's been a lot of talk about our new EMS building and different options that the commissioners are looking into as far as the construction of it. And I think they have found that there are ways to cut the budget, cut money there. And it's going to go on down the road to where I know that I've been hearing about the jailhouse is going to be needing a lot of improvements, and if the commissioners watch what they're doing and are able to watch our budget that way, because there's so many ways that they can build an EMS building that's functional, that's what would serve the county without going way over budget on it, and I think that would help a lot. And then, well, naturally, what we're most familiar with, what you've been hearing here all night, is about our road and bridge equipment, but I think those things are pretty much what we need to do.
Okay, thank you. I believe Mr. Pace is up this time. Let me just read this to you and I'll let you try to figure out. Are you in favor of taxing the metal container storage buildings that antique dealers use for storage year-round on their premises? And, I guess, can you tax the merchandise as property tax?
That is a loaded question. I'm pretty sure that goes into the state and appraisal district, is what that falls into, whether it becomes permanent property or not, whereas a standing structure versus something that's portable. I get taxed on round balers. I'm not sure why, and it's the same value every year because the round baler is worth just the same. I know they're worth less, but if I'm going to get it changed, I got to send in a addition every year because that's the rule they come up with. So I think it's if you don't want to tax it, they're going to tax it, move it. If you can move it, I don't think they're going to be able to tax it.
Okay. Mr. Sternadel, what's your thoughts?
What was the question?
Okay, I'll try it again.
Try it again.
Let me try it again. Are you in favor of taxing the metal container storage buildings antique dealers use for storage year-round on premises? And can you tax the merchandise as property tax?
Well, one question. Is that question referring to the metal barns that the events are in?
No, he was
I
talking
have
about.
no idea.
He's talking about storage containers, which to me.
Like a sea
I
container.
think that's the question. Is, can the storage containers, and in addition to that, can the merchandise that's contained in those
Well, I think
be taxed?
I think, like Mr. Pace said, you would have to deal with. It's not a permanent structure. It's a portable building. If it's a shipping container, and I think it would have to be up to someone other than the county commissioner to say what's the value of the merchandise in there. Sure. So how are you going to tax something that I maybe feel like it's not valued at anything and it's a collector's item to them? So I think that could really be very difficult to do.
Mr. Rubio, you get a chance at it too.
I really don't know. I think it falls back on the state, and stuff as far as taxing. Well, there is some out there that, they're stacking one on top of the other one, making it look like a barn where it's going to be stationary. That, but then again, it falls on, if they don't move it, like anything else, they tax, if they don't move it. But that's up to the state.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Sternadel, this one goes to you first. Would you change any of the developmental regulations? For example, subdivision, floodplain, or mobile home park regulations?
I think the county has been doing a really good job of keeping up with the subdivision regulations. They have been altered from time to time as needed. And I think the ones that they have implemented right now are doing a super job. And you know, as time goes along, it's going to have to be revised as it has been in the past. And I feel that you know, when that time comes, we have to address it then.
Mr. Rubio, would you change any of the developmental regulations, for example, subdivision, floodplain, or mobile home park regulations?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, like the county right now has restrictions on what they can do and what they can't do. So, and they're doing a good job right now, you know, keeping up with them. So, I just keep it up.
Mr. Pace, same question.
The floodplain thing is kind of iffy because we figured out 100-year floodplain happens every 2 years now. But, you know, trailer parks just got to be numbered up and where people can find them, because if somebody's got to go in an emergency situation, it's not only the person you're going to, but it's their neighbors that need to be in a safe thing also. As far as I'm aware, they're not really dropping the ball yet. I think in the future it needs to be considered as far as, you know, people don't just put something there you can't get to and then expect you to respond when you can't. And I think that, you know, don't put your house across a creek that's going to flood your house out. And if the county has to be involved in it to tell them not to put their house in the bottom of a creek, then that's what we're going to have to try to do and keep doing what we're doing.
Okay, let's start with you, Mr. Rubio, I believe, on this one. Often the county is told that it needs to plan for the future, to think ahead of the projects that are the problems that are going to arise. Usually these turn up as capital projects, major projects. What do you see as the most pressing need for future projects?
As far as that goes, I think the future projects would be some of the bigger bridges that we have. That, I mean, they cost a lot of money when they build them. The state helped us and stuff like that. So that's why I think you got to plan ahead. You know, you can't just use all your budget. I would save some as much as you can, and for that reasons, like we get floods and stuff like that. You know, we don't know when we're going to need it. So.
Okay. Mr. Pace, what do you see as a major need for future capital projects?
Man, whatever for the antique fair. You know, that's our biggest threat. You know, that if there's something bad going to happen, very likely from the lack of organization. And I mean, we got a few cops running around that argue with people over whether they're going to be staged there for an event. And, you know, this could be done so clearly and so neatly with some cooperation from as a unit, but there's no unity. And I think that really we need to work on that as people in this community. Anybody that's participating in this, because this affects everybody. I mean, this thing starts from 290, goes all the way to LaGrange, just reaching out past Fayetteville, the entire precinct. I get shut down for 2 weeks sometimes because I cannot cross 159 and 237 with farm equipment. This is a big, big deal. And when traffic was backed up the other side of Rudelsville 2 years ago, it really, really worried me. What do you do when something would happen here in Round Top? Are we going to call Houston? They'll probably get here quicker than we can from LaGrange. And we really need to be concerned about that. And that's probably the direction we really need to be worried as far as an actual legitimate concern in the near future.
Okay. Mr. Cernalo, what are your thoughts there? Capital projects for the future.
Well, as far as the capital projects, as far as the financing part of it, I mean, I understand what Mr. Pace is talking about with the growth of the antique show and so forth, but somewhere down the line, we're looking at our budget, and you're going to have to do something to accommodate. If you're going to bring in more law enforcement, or if you're going to bring in something like that, who's going to pay for it? Are you going to, who's going to absorb all of that? So yeah, that's something that's going to be a major, major deal. As we say, it's growing, it's fastly growing, and we're going to have to look into that. And also, like everybody likes a paved road. If we had 100% of our roads paved, there wouldn't be enough money in your budget to keep them up. Nobody wants to have a paved road. It goes back to gravel road. And things like that in the future. What's the price of paving all going to cost 10 years from now? And what's it going to take for us to keep these roads open and safe? So that's a lot to consider.
Okay.
All right, this one goes to you first, Mr. Pace. Someone in the audience wants to know if you know what is the salary of the commissioner and the benefits.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the salary is around $52,500 a year, something like that. I think is what the salary is actually at for each of the 4 commissioners. Oh, health insurance, I think, is included in that. Of course, that does come out of the general fund, not out of the road and bridge fund for commissioners. And the benefits was the other part. I think the health insurance is the biggest benefit. And anything after that, I think is, I mean, you got a county vehicle to drive while you're at work, but it's not like you get to take it home and do whatever.
Mr. Sternadel, how do you understand the salary and benefits package of the commissioner?
Well, I think they get roughly $55,000 a year, whatever it is there. And yes, they do have a vehicle to drive, which I think is only right because they are 24/7. And they're putting in a lot of hours, not just we're there from 7 to 3:30. They're putting in a lot of hours. And, I know they had talked before about the insurance part of it. It's not just for the commissioners, it's for all the employees. And, as far as that goes, I think it's great. I don't know how long we can continue doing that, paying the insurance for the employees.
Mr. Rubio, same question.
Yeah, it's roughly like 55,000 or whatever. And as far as that, like I said, take the vehicle home, because when they call, you get a phone call on the weekend, stuff. That's one of the, and you have to go out. And also the health insurance. I mean, lucky we have good health insurance, and it's been up because the Commissioner's Court had been watching what they're doing, and we are able to keep it up.
Okay, Mr. Sternadel, this one relates to when citizens complain about something. Specifically, when citizens have a complaint about roads, the question is, how responsive are you, or will you be, or can you be, when a citizen talks to you with a complaint about a road?
Oh, I think it's awesome. I like to hear from all the citizens about their roads. I meet with them a lot of times. It's on a daily basis, and it's not a problem at all. We have an answering machine there at the county warehouse. The commissioner has his personal cell phone on there. If we're out working on a job and no one's in the office, it'll go. They'll leave his number where you can contact him, and if he's unavailable, then he'll pass it on to me as superintendent and on down the line, and we'll address every call. We'll make every effort to contact them and go out and meet with them at their convenience, even if it's after work hours, to see what their issues and concerns are. And I think that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to serve the public. That's our job.
Mr. Rubio, you want to respond to that too?
Yes. No, I mean, we have good response time. I think, stuff. I know they call, and sometimes when they're not available, they send me out, hey, go see the problem or whatever. So I would continue that. I mean, that's no problem as far as going and talking and see what the problem is.
Okay. Mr. Pace.
If it's an immediate threat, something damaging or threatening to somebody getting hurt, I've obviously taken care of it immediately. If it's a complaint that somebody just thinks the road's too bumpy and too rough, then it needs to be addressed in a long-term solution and not just a temporary solution. You can't just make one person happy over and over again. But when a person has a legitimate concern saying that the road isn't paved by his house, it stops just before, why isn't it paved past the house? I think that could be addressed. And that's the biggest complaint I have heard, is why does it stop before my house? Well, I understand. You know what I mean? The dust is coming from the road in front of your house, not from before where it is paved. So, like I said, I think it could be addressed in a long-term solution as well.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Rubio, this goes to you first. In an effort to keep our county clean, what is your plan to work with ranchers to stop littering our highways with empty feed sacks?
there again, I think it's up to the landowner. I mean, we have good the trash recycling and everything. I mean, we get a lot of feed bags right now that they go up there and we fill our dumpsters up with feed bags and stuff. I guess, you know, we take all of them, but we can't. People don't tie them down in the back of the truck. They're going down the road. It flies out. I really don't know how we can do that. You know, but I mean, as far as us at the dump, we take a bunch of them. You know, we get all the, if they bring them to us, we take them. But there's nothing we can regulate about them flying out of the back of a pickup or anything.
Mr. Pace, anything you could do to help with that empty feed sack issue?
I don't feed cows feed, but I would say that we have lost our connection as neighbors in taking care of property in front of us. And I don't think that should, I mean, you can't regulate the farmer and tell them you have to make your feed bag out of lead, of course. But at the same time, I mean, we are responsible for maintaining, especially on county roads, being that we own the property all the way to wherever, because the county doesn't own it, that we really need to just, you know, we don't see Adopt a Highway program anymore. I haven't seen that sign in years. Where did it go? And something like a feed bag that's empty and doesn't have like a dead cat in it, it's not that hard to pick up. And I don't think it should fall necessarily just on the county to do so. I think we really need to pitch in and do this as everybody together.
Mr. Sternadel, thoughts on empty feed sacks and ways to control them?
We do have an Adopt Your Road program. The county does outside of the state. The county has their own. And we have put up signs that people would take a section of a road and adopt it. And I think that has been kind of falling through the cracks on it, because I know we had spent money and time having these signs printed up, and we had put them up, and then a year down the road, the landowner goes, no, that so-and-so's is letting feed bags blow out. Water bottles are a big thing. An empty water bottle is so light. You see more of those laying up and down the road than anything. And the road in front of my house is just full of them. And I think that it'd be good if the county, if with the litter problem that we have, maybe if we're going to have an Adopt Your Road program, make them sign a contract so we're not going out there and putting up signs and then they don't adhere to the agreement. Make them, you know, if you're going to adopt a road, by golly, keep it clean, you know.
Okay, well, I hope that we have addressed the questions that...
No, I've got one
I've
more.
got a couple.
Okay.
I'm just about to say we're getting it close to the end, folks. And I hope that we've addressed the issues that y'all are interested in. You've been the ones that have submitted these questions, and I appreciate your participation in that. I've got one last one here, I think, to ask, and then Jeff probably's got another one as well. And I believe that Mr. Pace is going to get this first one. And I guess it's just a simple question. I'm not real sure. Is a county official or a state official responsible for 237 beautification?
As far as I'm aware, 237 is a state road.
Beautification, of course, is the question, rather than not maintenance.
I'm not real familiar on the beautification, but it sounds like a state thing to me because I haven't heard anything from Fayette County about it.
Yeah, I'll have to say too, so I don't know the state regulations on it. I do know that they had their Adopt Your Road program as well. I have seen a lot of, you find folks out here walking the road ditches. Y'all have a regular program to clean up the Highway 237. And I think it's awesome. But once again, I don't know the states. I do see them drive around picking up larger things like blown out tires or debris like that. But as far as the other trash, I don't know, other than these folks are doing a good job out here.
Okay. Mr. Rubio.
Yes, I think that falls back on the state. You know, stuff. I know I see a lot of them when they're out there and you see a bunch of bags by the road and stuff, and they do a good job cleaning it up, and you'd be surprised how much they do pick up. But as far as us, I don't think we have. I'd say that would be a state.
Okay.
All right, we've got one last question here. And if these guys haven't answered something that's still lingering in your mind, jot it down and bring it up to us. But this is the last question we've got so far. The newspaper recently reported that Fayette County is one of the oldest counties in the state, age-wise. Do you see that as a problem? And if so, what would you do about it? Specifically trying to attract younger people to the county. And this one goes to Mr. Sternadel first. The age of Fayette County, being one of the oldest counties in the state, is that a problem?
No, I think it's great. We've been here a long time. Must be doing something right. And as far as bringing youngsters in, it's all about the job opportunity. Unfortunately, a lot of the younger generation would love to keep the family farm, but if it's not feasible for them, if they can't financially stay here to keep it, then it gets sold and divided up. A lot of our property is getting divided up in smaller tracts, getting sold off. I don't like to see that. I'd like to see them remain in the family farms, but this is part of it.
Mr. Rubio, thoughts on Fayette County having one of the older average populations in the state? Is that a problem, and is there something we should be doing to attract younger people?
No, I don't see it a problem. I know, like I said, the jobs, the schools, the colleges, stuff. But look at everybody here. Eventually, everybody comes back. So that's it.
Mr. Pace?
I'd have a real tough time calling it a problem. I mean, it's got its obstacles that go along with it, with healthcare and stuff. But the older generation's pretty easy to get along with, well secured in their life, and doesn't cause a lot of trouble. And it's one of the things that makes Fayette County really seem like a great place to live. And we have to appreciate that. Bringing in a few new, younger people, yeah, it's always a great thing, but it's got its problems that come with it as well. And so, old versus young, I'd say we're probably just fine where we're at.
All right. Well, thank you, audience, for those wonderful questions. Now we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to address anything they would like. Keeping in our order, we go to Mr. Rubio first. 2 minutes, to talk a closing statement or talk more about anything you'd like.
Well, I just the reason I'm seeking this election, the commissioner's job is I feel like I can do a good job for Fayette County Precinct 2, and go in, like I said before, I'm willing to 24/7 and go talk to the people and discuss the problems, find a solution, and work with the other commissioners also in Commissioner's Court and use my ideas.
Mr. Pace, a closing statement?
Not a lot to do for me till November, to be honest. Look forward to anybody who wants to vote for you then. Until then, if the decision is made, Republican Party, I appreciate your effort, and I hope you choose the better of the three candidates. I'm glad these two made it here. Their time committed to this county is appreciated by me, and it will be continued regardless of how the election turns out, whether I'm elected or not. The only thing I would like to add is that I think that we need to watch on the court, the Commissioner's Court, as far as what has been accepted as the norm. And just because Joe got $50 more doesn't mean that Freddie gets $50 more. And I think what I've noticed the last few years is that, well, you didn't ask for money the last 5 years, so yeah, we're going to give you your 20% you didn't get before when everybody else did. And I think that some people ought to make a case for it. And if they make a case for it, I think this county can go for it. If you can't make a case for it, then you probably shouldn't be asking.
Mr. Sternadel, a closing statement?
I feel that I'm the most qualified candidate for this position, and I think that all of my years of service will speak for itself. I just appreciate everybody come out and vote March the 6th, or early voting. And I think if you'll look back over my past, you'll find that I'm the most qualified candidate.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time this evening.
And Deborah, thank you very much for arranging for this. We appreciate it. Jeff and I have enjoyed being your moderators.
Well, I appreciate your service, and Mr. Frenzel as well. I'm going to call up our treasurer for one more begging service here.
Ring the bell.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Yeah, that's a good bell. And do remember, we appreciate your donations. There's the basket back there, the wicker basket, and whatever you feel you can afford to be proper to give. We appreciate it very much, and we'll see some of the later forums.
Okay, again, thank you for your attendance and your attention. We appreciate it. And don't forget about the other 3 forums that we're going to have. Again, for the State House District 13 race, the county judge race, county clerk, and JP1 race. And if you need any information on that, there's flyers out front, or you can go to our Facebook page or websites. All right? Thank you.
Yeah, let us sort it out.
Hey, thank you. Good job.